What's the most X-Files-like experience you've had in real life?
I stole a picture from one of the historic houses in Old Town San Diego, on Halloween for fun with my girlfriend. Picture was painted in the 1800s, it was Jesus praying in a hallway. Upon closer examination there was an alternate black devil-looking Jesus, hidden in the shadows of the painting. Took it home and put it in the closet. Randomly on nights I would smell the worst smell in the world and wake up and see what looked like a black smoke cloud. I moved 3 times and still saw the same crap. Finally my roommate saw the same thing, so I knew I wasn't crazy. Long story short, I brought the picture back to where I got it, and told one of the employees what I did and apologized, and she replied,
"Don't worry, they always come back to us."
I witnessed the Phoenix Lights firsthand. The reaction to them afterwards was so surreal. Politicians acted like buffoons and mocked what many, including me, knew to be a true event. The truth is out there.
I think we can probably conclude that it's not aliens in that case, just a secret government craft. There's an obvious incentive to cover up the latter, but why cover up aliens? Then again, they could just cover up secret government craft by saying it was aliens. It doesn't make sense either way. Something sinister is at hand.
My close friend lived in New York City, and she was driving with some cousins and got in an accident. This is about 2 a.m. Sunday morning. I'm dead sleep. I dreamt the entire crash, and the scream from when they hit the median woke me up. It sounded like she was right next to me, screaming in my ear. As I got my phone to call her and check, she called me. I told her bits and pieces of what I had seen, but she figured I had guessed everything. Until I described the dress she had on, and she freaked out, because she had never shown me the dress. She had just bought it, and I even knew there was a tag still on it.
When I was a teenager, I learned about lucid dreaming and how to induce them. Ended up taking a while to perfect how to do it, but it was worth it. Most dreams ended up just being me trying to test my limits in various ways while exploring the strange dream world. One night I was practicing flying and ended up teleporting somewhere, because I was suddenly inside a very high-tech ship, and there was a super stereotypical alien inside. I tried to use my main means of attack, which was to telepathically pop a hole in its chest. I called it the hole puncher, but it did nothing, like less than nothing. Then it got pissed. At this point I'm not having a good time and feeling kind of annoyed, so I try to wake up from the dream like I do when it's a failed lucid dream. But I couldn't. Then it lurched forward at me and the dread I felt was insane. The way it moved was sickening in itself. I can't even describe it. When it touched me I swear I felt real pain, and that's when I finally woke up. Never happened again, but I won't forget it.
Let me preface this with my morning routine. Wake up at 4:30 a.m., out the door by 5:15 a.m., clock in at work 5:50ish a.m. Never fails, unless major traffic incident on the highway. Anyhow, one morning this past August, I am out the door as usual, minimal traffic on the road. Boss calls halfway through my commute.
"Hey, you coming in?"
And I say yeah, why do you ask?
"Well, it's 6:30 a.m. and you usually call if you're going to be late."
I look at my dashboard and yup, it's 6:30 a.m. Somewhere between leaving my door and getting on the road, I lost about 1 hour. Edit, alright guys, your replies are scarier. Absence seizures, carbon monoxide, secret DST, Alzheimer's. Edit 2, not daylight savings. Happened this past August. Edit 3, I am taking your advice and visiting my GP for a checkup and referral.
In high school, my pal bounced a bouncy ball in his room so hard that we never saw it again. We tore that room up, never found it.
There was a Twilight Zone episode like this. Parents hear their child calling them at night, go into her room, can hear her but not see her. Turns out she fell out of bed, rolled under the bed and into another dimension.
I hate when that happens.
I have a friend who once told me about a time when he was in his teens. He slept in a bunk bed with his brother in the lower bunk. He said he dreamt a demon wearing the skin of a man threatened to kill his brother. In order to save him, he somehow managed to procure a knife and put the knife to the neck of the demon. The demon tells him,
"The only way to rid evil is through evil."
He hesitated and woke up to find he was pressing a butcher knife under the neck of his younger brother. He was still sleeping, fortunately, but when he awoke, he told the same dream exactly, except he was attacked by his brother in the dream and said the exact same thing.
The only way to rid evil is through evil.
Nothing similar happened after that, and it gave him some serious issues that led him to go through psychotherapy for a while.
I was driving down the highway around 3 a.m. when a semi-truck pulled alongside me, then swerved into my lane, running me off the road and down a very steep incline. I remember going over. I gunned the engine, why I don't know, but as I was going downhill I kept telling myself to step on the brake. I couldn't move it. It was like someone was holding my foot down. Then I heard this voice tell me, "Okay, now you can step on the brake." Neither my infant daughter nor myself were injured, and the only damage to the car was a hole in the oil pan. Both the tow truck and the highway patrol officer were incredulous that I didn't roll the car. They told me if I had tried to stop any sooner than I did, I would have probably killed us both.
Ghost car. I worked the overnight shift at an AM radio station back in the 90s, saw a car come down the driveway to the parking lot, went out to see who it was, and the car was just gone. I would have seen if it had turned around or backed out, thought I was going nuts, until the announcer strolled out of the studio and said,
"What happened to that car?"
5 friends and I were playing flashlight tag/hide and seek in his huge farm. Across the pond, he has nothing but forest. We're all playing, and 2 of us, my friend and I, have these sweet walkie-talkies. Both of us, plus another, were afraid to go into the forest, but the 3 of us decided to go in. Since we could hide forever in there, we go in, and split up. Me by myself, and the 2 others together. With the walkie-talkies, we were talking for maybe 30 minutes back and forth, pretty stoked about our hiding spots. I even went up a tree and bit and found the perfect little nook to just chill in. About another 20 minutes goes by, and I haven't heard from them. I walkie in, and nothing. Okay, maybe he didn't hear it. I walkie again. This time I get a beat back. It stayed live for about 5 seconds. Are these things working? I tried again, and this time, I heard a distinct breathing. Alright, well, they have to be messing with me. Even so, it was freaking me out. I hop out of the tree and start heading back towards the house. As soon as I get down, I start hearing a howling. I thought it was coyotes, but there was something off about it. It sounded just like someone in the distance howling, like a coyote. I was starting to get really freaked out by this point, so I hightail it back towards the house. I kept hearing the howling and could swear it was getting closer. I picked up pace and started running towards the edge of the tree line. As soon as I crossed it, the walkie sounded again and there was a cackle. Like, which cackle? I have never ran faster up to the house. Once I was back up, I met up with one of the friends, who were seeking, and told them about it.
"Dude. Jimmy and Timmy are still out there. They definitively freaked me out."
He goes,
"Oh, they're back here. They said they lost track of you and just came back thinking you already came back."
Turns out, they came back but lost the walkie coming back. So, something found the walkie, or I was just hearing things.
When I was younger, I was really into looking at creepy places with my friends. Mostly would find nothing, just strange shadows or sounds that we would convince ourselves was much more. One night we went down to Witch Road as we heard there was a strange cabin in the woods that was supposedly terrifying. Generally we did a lot of research on these places to learn about them, what other people have seen or experienced, but this time we did none of that. Found the address, printed out the MapQuest directions and took on the road. The road is truly out in the middle of nowhere surrounded by woods. It was about 8:15 midsummer, when we parked on the side of the road just as it was turning dusk. We got out of the car and headed to the trunk to get our flashlights and backpacks. We rounded the end of the car and I saw the cabin. I gestured to my friends to look at the cabin. Just then we saw what looked to be an orb that was slowly moving towards us. It was far enough in the distance that we couldn't make out distinctly what the shape was. It wasn't scary, didn't make me anxious, it did the opposite. I was incredibly intrigued and curious. I started walking into the woods, leaving behind my backpack and flashlight. My friends closely followed. Breaking the silence, we heard a crashing through the woods as a man appeared running towards us holding a lantern. and telling us that we had to leave. We asked no questions and headed back to the car. The adventure was over. We were all silent, and in a daze driving away, until my friend said, "Wait, did that guy have a lantern? What year is he from?" Still a strange, weird moment in my life.
The scariest part was the MapQuest directions.
Dark days for sure.
Every few weeks my girlfriend or I will catch sight of colorful lights moving past our third-story apartment window at night. I, the Scully of the relationship, am convinced it is some trick of the light, with a police car's flashing lights reflecting off of something and bouncing back to our window. My girlfriend is certain that someone is flying a drone past our window to spy on us. I always run out to check as soon as I see the lights, but I never see a drone. The lights look like a drone, but they move too fast and they move through tree branches, so I don't think it's a drone. It's probably aliens though.
Get some drinks and have a night with her, looking out the window, and drink every night until you see it.
Naked. It gives all three possibilities a reason to manifest themselves. If it's a drone, they stop to see you. If it's the cops, they stop to arrest you. If it's aliens, they stop to probe you. My wife calling my name, nothing unusual about that, except that I did not hear it with my ears, as I was listening to Led Zeppelin's In My Time of Dying, on the stereo, and it was cranked up. I heard it in my mind. I walked to the bathroom as I knew my wife was taking a bath. I found her face down in the water. She was unconscious, having suffered an epileptic seizure. Fortunately, I found her in time. Background: there's a compound near where I grew up that is a, supposedly decommissioned, AT&T Cold War Communications Center. It sits at the end of a dead-end road isolated from any houses nearby. On the outside it looks like a small, mundane two-story building, nothing exciting at all, until you find out the building is actually many stories deeper. The entire building rests on a bed of springs to absorb shock from explosions and features an underground parking structure adjacent. Over the years there have been theories that it was a missile silo, UFO research center, and something about a dark cloud full of lightning hovering just above it on an otherwise clear day. The X-Files part: prior to decommission, you could drive down that road until you almost reached a guard station. I say, almost, because doing so resulted in being engulfed in floodlights with a military-type security team armed with assault rifles, demanding you turn around immediately. As far as I know, no one to this day knows what really went on there, or what the inside looks like.
We were working in a fairly secure oil field in Texas, and they were like,
"Do not explore, go straight to your destination, if you divert you will be banned for life."
So we asked our buddy if they were hiding Bigfoot or Chupacabra, and he winked at us. The truth is out there, people.
If it was in South Texas, it's because you would get shot by the cartels. When I was a child, while waiting for the bus, I was very nearly attacked by the biggest, blackest, meanest dog I have ever seen, until an equally big white dog came out of nowhere to my defense, while I ran back inside. It has made me think a lot about angels and demons, and I have never been sure what to believe since it happened.
Damn, I've got a good one for this, finally. Let me also say that The X-Files is my all-time favorite show, and I started watching when I was 11 or so, because one of my teammates told me I look like Fox Mulder. Humble brag. Okay, so when my best friend and I were 15 years old, we were in our own little terrible 80s hard rock cover band. His dad's friend, who happened to a virtuoso jazz guitarist, asked us if we'd ever seen this amazing, must-see guitar movie called Crossroads. We hadn't, but he played it up so much that we just had to go to Blockbuster that night and rent it. So Crossroads is essentially given background by the true folklore story of Delta blues guitarist Robert Johnson, who sold his soul to the devil for incredible guitar ability. The legend goes that Johnson walked to a crossroad at midnight with his guitar and waited until the devil came. The devil can take any form he chooses, and tends to take a form that would make most sense to the person he's interacting with. In this case, he's an older, well-dressed Southern gentleman in a fancy old Ford. Anyway, the devil comes and inspects Johnson's guitar and tells him that he can show him a few new tunings that will help him with his guitar playing. Johnson hands the devil the guitar, the devil tunes it, hands it back, and the contract is done. Johnson's soul has been exchanged, and by sunrise he will suddenly be able to play with otherworldly ability. Okay, so being 15 years old and for lack of much else to do that summer, my friend and I decided to give this thing a try. After a little 14K dial-up research, we figured that any old crossroad would do, and as luck would have it, there are plenty of places where two roads cross just about anywhere. We each took an electric guitar and at exactly midnight, strode out a few blocks away from his parents' house to see what happened. We stood there for upwards of a half hour, feeling a little foolish but bolstered by the brave and bold thing we were doing, joking to each other. After growing bored, we began to debate whether or not to call it quits. We'd tried and we'd failed. The devil wasn't going to really come ask us for our souls, after all, that's just old folklore. Suddenly, an unremarkable gray Toyota Camry, or Honda Civic, or Nissan Maxima slowly rolled over to us and pulled to a stop. A youngish man in his mid to late 20s with spiked hair and glasses rolled down the window and leaned across the passenger seat toward our direction. At first we weren't sure what to believe. There were lots of reasons for a car to pull over and inspect two teenagers standing on a street corner at midnight holding electric guitars, some more sinister than the rest. However, this was 1999 or so, and things like that just seemed more commonplace than they do now.
"Hey,"
he said.
"I like what you guys are doing out here. Cool guitars, that's really cool. You guys are just hanging out here with electric guitars."
We looked at each other.
"Yeah,"
my friend said eventually.
"Just hanging out, bored, nothing to do."
"You know,"
he began, looking directly at me, the resident guitar player in our two-man band.
"that's a nice guitar. You should let me take a look at it. I bet I could fix it up for you, show you a few things that might help."
I swallowed hard, mind frozen, unsure how I'd come to this impasse, where the veil between reality and unreality had become so thin. I knew what he'd say next before the words left his mouth.
"There are some new tunings I know about."
We stared at the man in utter disbelief. This couldn't be happening. My mind felt like it was on fire. Thousands of thoughts fought desperately for purchase, none willing to budge. I froze. Finally my friend, always the most demonstrative of the two of us, spoke up.
Nope, we're good. We've gotta go."
Before we left, the man told us that he lived just down the block, and indicated a row of nearby houses. He told us to come by, if we'd ever had a change of heart. We ran home, incredulous to the events that had just taken place. We ran back over the event with each other repeatedly to ensure that we hadn't accidentally sold our souls to the devil. I remember thinking how upset my grandmother would be with me if she'd known that I had went out seeking to make a deal with the devil. A few days later, composure regained via our usual irreverent juvenile senses of humor, we'd mostly gotten over the event. We decided that if this guy really did live on that block in one of those nearby houses, we should go investigate. So we did. We took a walk, guitarless this time, down to the group of 3 or 4 houses the man had vaguely indicated with a swipe of his hand on the aforementioned night. As we approached the general destination, I began to hear faint music that grew louder as we approached. Using the music as a guide, we located the house that was the source of the sound, and sat down on the cool grass separating the sidewalk from the street. Looking at my light-up Casio watch, the revelation wasn't lost on me that it was just after midnight. As we listened closer, we were surprised, although maybe not as surprised as we should have been, to hear that the music wasn't coming from a stereo system, but was live, the rehearsal of a band. Impossibly, as we continued listening, the rehearsing band played a near-identical set list of the songs that we ourselves would practice in my friend's basement, literally less than a quarter mile away. The quality of this band's practice, however, was incredible, especially since we'd spent some time searching and knew of no local musicians in the area, especially so incredibly close by. We deemed that location the devil's house and tried to go back a few more times, but never heard the music again. We never saw the man in the nondescript foreign sedan again, and never attempted another deal. 18 years later, we still tell the story of the night we met the devil to incredulous friends, who never seemed to believe us. I promise that this story is 100% true, and we've spent plenty of time considering that maybe the guy in the car had seen Crossroads himself recently and was just pulling an incredibly effective prank on us. If so, his follow-through was excellent, as after that one night, we never again heard or saw of him, his band, and never encountered anyone that could vouch for the fact that he even existed. By that point we were far too scared to do any more digging and just decided it best to let it be.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and ring the notification bell.